Solving a system of three equations with three unknowns means find a value for x and a value for y and a value for z, because these three equations have the unknowns x, y, and z. So the goal is to find a value for x, a value for y, and a value for z that make all three equations true. Here's how we do it. First step is pick any two equations. It doesn't matter which two equations you start with. It could be the first two, it could be the second one and the third one, or it could be the first one and the third one. I'm going to choose the first two equations. Choose the equations by drawing these arrows next to them. Once two equations have been chosen, pick any column. By that I mean either the x column, the y column, or the z column. I'm going to choose the z column. When you're doing these on your own, you pick any one of the columns. If you're picking the z column, think of a number that 2 and 4 both go into. You might use 8 because 2 goes into 8 and 4 goes into 8. Or you could use 4 because 2 goes into 4 and 4 goes into 4. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to use 4 because 2 goes into 2 4 times. Therefore, on top of this arrow, write M2. The M2 means we are going to multiply by 2. Multiply every term by 2. You'll see why in a minute. Multiply by 2. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times positive 1y is positive 2y. 2 times positive 2z is positive 4z. The equal sign, 2 times 6 is 12. We just had a 2z and now we have a 4z. The goal is to make the numbers in this circle, this red circle, to be opposites. We need these numbers to be opposites. What we're doing is making this a 4 and we're going to make this a negative 4. We're going to multiply this middle equation by negative 1. M negative 1 means multiply by negative 1. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times y is negative 1y. Negative 1 times 4z is negative 4z. Equal sign, negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Add these columns and the z will disappear. Add the columns, that's the next step. Add 6x and negative 1x. 5x. Add positive 2y and negative 1y. That's positive 1y. Positive 4z and negative 4z is 0z. We'll write nothing here. And on the other side of the equal sign, we add 12 and negative 3. We get positive 9. So when you're doing all of these operations, there's a lot of them, so just be very careful. Once you added the equations and one of the variables is missing, z is missing, we put a cloud around that equation. Once there's a cloud around an equation, we start over. Start over, so I'm going to say a lot of the same things I just said. So when we started this, I said, pick two equations. You can't pick the same two. So, but pick two equations. This time I'm going to pick the first equation and the third equation. Just any two as long as it's not the same two we used here. And now we use the same column. Here we eliminated the z column, so we have to eliminate z column again, the z again. So we're only looking at this and this. The goal is to make these opposites. I don't care what numbers we make them as long as they're opposites. Like here we had positive 4 and negative 4. This time we're going to make these a positive 2 and a negative 2. That's easy to do because this top number is already positive 2. So the top equation is 3x plus y plus 2z equals 6. If you want, you could say we multiplied that equation by 1. I know that means we just copied it. And this third equation, we're going to multiply by -1. -1 times 2x is -2x. -1 times positive 3y is -3y. -1 times positive 2z is -2z. Equal sign, -1 times 2 is -2. After we add these columns, we will put a cloud around the result like we did over there. We're adding these. Adding -2x and 3x, that's 1x. -3y and positive 1y, that's -2y. Z is gone. -2z, positive 2z is 0. On the other side of the equal sign, we add -2 and 6, and we get positive 4. Let's put a cloud around that. Remember, when you're doing these operations, there's a lot of them, so just be really careful. It's very easy to make a mistake. So we picked 2 equations and got rid of z. Then we picked 2 different equations and got rid of z. These 2 equations with clouds are what we think about now. So we're only going to write the 2 equations that have clouds around them. The 5x plus 1y equals 9, and the 1x minus 2y equals 4. Let's only think about these 2 right now. So we pick a column, the x column or the y column. Doesn't matter. Let's pick the x column. When we pick the x column, what we mean is these numbers, we need to make these numbers opposites. Right now there's a 5 and a 1. We need to turn them into opposites. And we're going to turn them into 5 and -5. Easy to do that because this is already 5. 5x plus 1y equals 9. And this 1 can be turned into a -5 if we multiply by -5. The top equation we multiplied by 1. -5 times 1x is -5x. -5 times -2y is positive 10y. And -5 times 4 is -20. Now we add these columns. The x will be gone. 5x and -5x is 0. 1y and 10y is 11y. We're adding. Adding 9 and -20, we get -11. Then divide both sides by 11. Just divided both sides by 11. Now this result, we plug into one of the clouds. Plug into one of the clouds. So pick one of the equations that were in clouds. That's these purple ones. Doesn't matter which one. And replace y with -1. I'll pick the top equation. The top equation says 5 times x plus y equals 9. Where the y is, we put -1 using this. Or 5x minus 1 equals 9. Add 1 to both sides. Added 1 to both sides. Divide both sides by 5. Divided both sides by 5. So we have x equals 2. Now that we have these 2, we go back to one of the originals. There's 3 original equations. Pick any one of them and plug both of these in. So pick any one of these, first, second, or third. I'll pick the top equation, 3x plus y plus 2z equals 6. And we're just going to plug in what we have so far. We have x equals 2 and y equals -1. We have x equals 2 and y equals -1. We don't have z yet. 3 times 2 is 6, plus -1. You can write plus -1 or -1. Copy all of this. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5 plus 2z equals 6. Subtract 5 from both sides. 6 minus 5 is 1. And then when we have 2z equals 1, when we divide both sides by 2, we get z equals 1/2. We write the solution to a problem like this as an ordered triple. We call it an ordered triple, meaning we're going to make an open parentheses and we're going to write 3 numbers separated by commas in order, and it's going to be alphabetical order. That means x, y, z. So we're going to write 2, comma, -1, comma, 1/2. The order is important. It's alphabetical order, x, comma, y, comma, z. And now we're going to check the answer. So anyway, this is the answer right here. To check the answer, we write one of the equations, 3x plus y plus 2z equals 6. We want to make sure this equation is true when x is 2 and y is -1 and z is 1/2. When x is 2 and y is -1 and z is 1/2. 3 times 2 is 6. Adding -1 is the same as subtracting 1. 2 times 1/2 is 1. 6 minus 1 plus 1. That's 6 equals 6. Check. We have to make sure all of the equations are true. So I'm going to look back and see what the second equation was. We always go back to the beginning. X plus y plus 4z equals 3. If we have the correct answer, then this has to be true when x is 2 and y is -1 and z is 1/2. Our solution was x is 2, y is -1, and z is 1/2. 2 plus -1 is 1. 4 times 1/2 is 2. 1 plus 2, 3 equals 3. Check. And there's one more check. We have to make sure all of the equations are true. So I have to go back and see what the third equation was. 2x plus 3y plus 2z equals 2. This equation has to be true when x is 2 and y is -1 and z is 1/2. That's the solution we got. X is 2, y is -1, and z is 1/2. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times -1 is -3. 2 times 1/2 is 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Check.